Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide. An original short story by Jared I. McGee. Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide. If you are reading through or listening to this guide, chances are you or someone you love has recently acquired your very own Dybbuk. We here at Pensive Press are happy to provide this first introductory chapter of the text Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide for free in both text and audio form. If you do enjoy this chapter and wish to continue on in the book, simply order through your preferred service via the links at the end of this e-reader, or those linked to the audio file which you have obviously downloaded. Just to get this out of the way up front, Dybbuks are far from your normal ghost, poltergeist, spirit, or demon. In regards to the latter, this is a chief mistake among new Dybbuk hosts. Greenhorn hosts often read accounts from the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, and other holy books once they've figured out that the spirit is of that tradition, and they automatically defer to Josephus's accounts of demonic possession. Again, this is a mistake, as the Dybbuk is a very different brand of apparition altogether. Like many Western spirits, the Dybbuk has not passed on to whatever is in the great beyond, because it believes it has some goal that it needs to accomplish. Moreover, don't confuse your Dybbuk with a simple possession in the style of those found in many mythos. Your Dybbuk is but a dislocated soul of a person. It is not some odd reflection of that person or some nefarious beastie from another realm. So, relax a little bit already, would you? In order to live life well with your Dybbuk, you should do your best to understand that the Dybbuk is adhering to the person whom it's chosen until its goal is reached. Thus, discerning what the goal is imperative to pleasing and, eventually, releasing your Dybbuk. Try not to view this as getting rid of your Dybbuk. This phrase and phrases like it do not go over well with Dybbuks and might cause them to become more hostile to the point of out-and-out malevolence. Packaging is key with a Dybbuk. Let's keep them happy, eh? So, why you? Why are you the one that the Dybbuk has chosen? Or, in the case of many concerned family members and friends of someone that's going through this little trial, why did the Dybbuk choose your loved one? The explanations are myriad and varied. However, a lot of the more folklore-y accounts from the Jewish traditions should probably be ruled out. No, the Dybbuk is not here to punish you for slighting the possibility that Moses really did physically part the Red Sea. No, the Dybbuk is not here solely because you have been foregoing Sabbath practices. No, the Dybbuk is not some awful something from the depths of hell sent to torture you. Dybbuk's reasoning for coming to a host are multitudinous, and often overlap many concurrent reasons that make a host all the more appealing. Your Dybbuk could have come to you through a variety of means. Family curse, personal curse, horrible affront against God, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, being in the right place at the right time, having the appropriate physical body, mental capacity, or set of skills for which the Dybbuk is looking, a personal connection to the person that became the Dybbuk, an overtly pious nature, an overtly impious nature. You've recently been to a place of great horror and or suffering. You've got a personal connection to a place of great horror and or suffering. Playing with Ouija boards. Consulting mystics, psychics, or other occultists that work as conduits from the tangible world to the intangible world. Trying out tantric sex without proper training. And much, much more. As you can see, discerning the precise reason the Dybbuk chose you can be quite difficult, though it's not impossible. If knowing the why really is a focus of yours, feel free to do the research and find where you might have picked up your Dybbuk. However, remember our earlier message. Packaging is key. Don't make your Dybbuk feel unwelcomed or attacked. Now, before we end our introductory chapter of Dybbuks and You, we should note together that though we do try to shy away from this word, the Dybbuk possession is not a positive or uplifting possession. Subsequent chapters will take some of the concepts regarding placating your Dybbuk and run with them a bit further. But, for now, in this introduction, simply keep in mind that the Dybbuk is not really specifically here to harm you or those that you love. However, they will do whatever it takes to right the wrongs or accomplish the tasks for which they've lingered outside of the astral plane. If you've ever had a loved one lucky enough to have an Ibur join their life, they might mistake the Dybbuk as that same sort of arrangement. That is a potentially hazardous misconception, though. Unlike the Dybbuk, the Ibur is a far more positive apparition that is simply using its host to perform various mitzvahs or blessings in order to be deemed wise enough to move on to the great beyond. This spirit is pushing for a Gilgul-esque drive to a form of reincarnation that is considered part and parcel to the Kabbalistic Jewish tradition. You can find more information and details about the Ibur in Chapter 12, Ibur or Dybbuk. Let's figure it out. Again, please take caution not to assume positive intent from your Dybbuk, as they can and often will become violent if you're not going about your duties as their host in an appropriately timely and focused manner. Unlike the aforementioned Ibur, the Dybbuk's needs, unfortunately, aren't necessarily going to fall under the mitzvah umbrella. Whether it be killing a drug dealer that hooked a Dybbuk's little sister to heroin, only to turn her out on the streets pimping her to the neighborhood, or desecrating some holy space, person, or idea for the Dybbuk, or just plain killing the body of the Dybbuk, these spirits demand justice, and that justice often comes in the form of violence. Just one thing to keep in mind as you begin to pursue the needs of your specific Dybbuk. This is not to say that some Dybbuks do not have righteous causes. There's a very good reason that popular media and folk tradition alike often cast the Dybbuk as a violent, angry protagonist that seems to be just a bit misunderstood after all. Before we conclude this introductory chapter, it is appropriate, necessary, and imperative that you make a note not to try to rid yourself of the Dybbuk or to trap the Dybbuk. In recent years, some errant folk tales concerning the forcible expulsion of and or trapping of Dybbuks have been circulating. In particular, films have taken these only recently crafted imaginings and blown them out of proportion in the modern imagination, most frequently putting forth the practice of exorcism of Dybbuks and or the containment of them in various boxes. Not only is this thinly veiled repackaging of our very real reality, it is dangerous folly to propagate such a message. Whatever you do, please do not try to forcibly remove your Dybbuk. Even if you find rabbis or tzaddiks well versed in the Kabbalistic traditions, expulsion of a Dybbuk does not mean being rid of it. As a quick side note, that is not the authors of the texts telling you not to seek out help from professionals. On the contrary, you should. Just be leery of any purported professional advising you toward these acts. Again, to be blunt, trapping a Dybbuk does not mean being rid of it. The bad luck and resultant caustic karma that comes with these acts is far worse than simply pursuing the needs of your Dybbuk. The physical manifestations that often come to a person upon the expulsion and or trapping of a Dybbuk include, but are not limited to, sudden hair loss, violent mood swings, aggressive outbursts, nightmares, sleepwalking, insomnia, nausea, restlessness, tooth loss, bleeding gums, vomiting, hives, blisters, diarrhea, bloody stool and evidence of other internal bleeding, hearing loss, heart palpitations, stroke, death, and more. So, clearly, Pursuing the mission of your specific Dybbuk is the far less difficult, far less physically damaging avenue, to be sure. That brings us to the end of the introduction to the first chapter of Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide. We here at Pensive Press hope that you've enjoyed the free excerpt, and would love for you to purchase the text in full, as we believe it is the most comprehensive guide to living with Dybbuks yet to be published. If after reading this text you still have issues with your Dybbuk, or maybe you feel you've misidentified the spirit currently clinging to you or your loved one, consider some of our other how-to guides. Embracing your Ibur. Downward Dog, Why Dog-Faced Men Frequent Your Property. Idolic Entropy, Embracing Disorder. Pesky Poltergeists and Why They Have Panache. Teaching Tantra, Spiritual Defense Through Meditation and Sexuality. Kissing Quetzalcoatl, Loving Lakshmi and Shoving Shiva, a comprehensive guide to navigating spiritual encounters on this plane. Whose Broomstick Is This? Walpurgis Night Do's and Don'ts, and many, many more. Best of luck with your Dybbuk, and thank you for choosing Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide from Pensive Press. Thank you for listening to Dybbuks and You, a practical how-to guide. The backing track for this story was taken from the Free Music Archive and is titled I Am a Man Who Will Fight for Your Honor, from the album of the same name by Chris Zabriskie. It is being used under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Thank you to Mr. Zabriskie for providing this music to the Free Music Archive and, indeed, the world. That does it for Prose this week. Please keep an eye out for another special episode featuring my young protege Abigail Lambert. She'll be joining us again next week for yet another story. As always, thank you for listening to Prose. See you next time.